Okay, so welcome back everyone, and as you can see, I've had some requests to do a tier maker on the hardest maps that I believe that are in the game currently, and I also threw in an extra part that we're going to do later. It's my favorite maps in the game, and I'll show you that tier maker here after we cover this one. So we're going to start here, and first we're going to go through chronologically what maps I feel are easy, what maps I feel are hard, etc. And we're going to start from chronological order, and that is from Michigan, Alaska, Taymyr, Kola Peninsula, Yukon, Wisconsin, Amur, Dawn, Maine, and then so on and so forth. But just to give everyone a little bit of a background of where I'm getting my information or my own mindset on how I'm ranking these, this is all based off a playthrough that is chronological, meaning I start in Michigan and I move those maps I just showed you. I move from left to right. So I would complete Michigan, Alaska, Taymyr, Kola, Yukon, Wisconsin, Amur, the Dawn, and then I would complete Maine. And I would do those in order, 100%. And that's kind of like where I'm deriving this information I'm giving you. But also, this is completely subjective. I do have a lot of hours in this game, and I have played most of these regions multiple times. The only one I haven't played more than once is Amur, just because it's so long to complete. But I am getting close to getting to Amur on my hardcore playthrough. So yeah, we'll get in there and do that later. But anyways, let's jump in and start here. We're going to start with Michigan. So first, Black River. I think another thing we need to put in perspective is our perspective changes after we get so far in the game. I think when I first started Black River, I thought it was hard. But I think now that I've played Amur, I've played, maps like Amandra and stuff like that, my perception of how hard Michigan was isn't the same as when I started. So this is my perception now, but I do believe that Black River is a very easy map. It's very scout friendly. And then, yeah, it's just a good overall balanced map that I think is a good learning map. And that leads me to Smithfield Dam. So Smithfield Dam, I'm actually going to rank this one a little bit higher to the moderate easy. I think it trends more to the easy, but I felt because of its topography that it was just a little bit different than Black River. So Black River does have a good bit of topography and some tipping concerns as well. But I did feel that Michigan or Smithfield Dam, just from the ups and downs, and it was just a totally different map with the bogs, a little bit harder terrain, tipping concerns and such like that. It was just a little bit harder than I think every other Michigan map, so that's why I ranked that one just a little bit higher. Okay, so let's move on to Island Lake. Where's Island Lake at? I'm trying to find this. It's like they're not all in order. So yeah. Let's see. Island Lake. My goodness. Am I blind? There's Drummond Island. Island Lake. Sorry. I apologize. Island Lake is easy. And I think Island Lake is easy just because I'm reaching down and grabbing my controller, by the way. So that's what you're hearing. Island Lake is pretty easy. There's not many mountains except for the southern area and a little bit up here. And a little bit here as well. It's very scout friendly, especially like these routes here. I thought this was really good scout running trails. But overall, it's just the mud is getting a little bit thicker back here, maybe a little bit slower traveling just because, if you're playing with trucks out of Michigan, yeah, you're going to be challenged a little bit just with how slow everything is going to go. But overall, I didn't think this was a hard map. It's not really necessarily big. The width is the size. I mean, the width is very long. It's the max width a map could be, but the length, or I guess you would call it north-south, is not. And then that leads us over to Drummond Island. And I'll talk about that here in a second. So Drummond Island, where is it at? I just saw it. Drummond Island, I believe, is also a very easy map. And Drummond is really interesting because it is a very small map. It's half the size of what a normal map is on both north, south, east, west. There is a lot of river crossings, things you need to do. There is a pretty hard task over here to get barrels out of, and also over here, but which could have left me to move this up to the moderate easy. But overall, there's not a ton of things to do here, and I didn't feel that it was too hard. These are both manageable, and you can also Google these as well if you need any type of help. But yeah, I didn't feel overall the Michigan maps were too hard, and that leads me over to the Alaska maps. So first off, we're going to cover Northport. Northport, I believe, slides right in here. It's not really too hard of a map. It's a big map, don't get me wrong. There's snow. This is the first time we've been introduced to snow. Super snow as well. You do have some really deep mud pits down here and stuff like that. But overall, I just felt this was a pretty good map. And you're getting trucks like the BM17 here, and all your trucks from Michigan are getting further upgraded as you continue in Alaska. So yeah, I didn't feel this was too bad. I felt it was pretty balanced. I think Alaska it's a really good balanced map, and I believe it has the biggest concentration of highways or roads on any region. So those trucks, like your highway trucks, they can be used to make deliveries here as well. And that leads me to Mountain River. Mountain River slides right in here as well. Mountain River is actually not really a big map. It's really small, kind of like Drummond Island. There are a few little tasks here that can be hard. Some of these contests, especially this top and back, is kind of difficult here and there. But overall, I thought this was a very enjoyable experience. Especially you can see all these roads that you can use to deliver cargo, and that's kind of like your main routes around this area. And I've explained this, all these maps a little bit more in detail in my my Route Runner series, so go check that out if you have not saw that. Really good series there. I break down all these maps. Next is White Valley. White Valley is the same. I think it goes right into the easy category as well. And we'll talk about White Valley. White Valley it's kind of like Island Lake, but twisted 90 degrees. It's a very long map. You find the rest of your upgrades here as well. A lot of roads, as you can see, and they kind of all go north-south. And you can use these to deliver a lot of things off the beaten path, though. You know, you'll run into some pretty thick mud and stuff over through here, down through here as well. But just a really nice drive. You know, you go up into the mountains. It's relatively scout friendly. These maps that are early in the game, you really can use your scouts a lot better than you can in the latter parts of the game. So I felt that was the reason I put that in its place. And also the logging contracts. And that's another reason I put Smithville Dam here, is because some of these logging contracts over in Smithville, you're kind of going up into those tipping zones, delivering these cargo loads of logs. So I felt that's why I kept this up here in the moderate. Okay, let's talk about Pedro Bay. Pedro Bay, this is the last map that I'm going to put in this category. And Pedro is, there is no garage, so that could have been factored into being a little bit harder, but I didn't feel it was, because you find a lot of fuel in Alaska. I believe it has the most concentration of fuel or free fuel in the whole game. And also it's not very big. Yeah, you will have some deeper parts and some tipping concerns, but overall it's not super up and down, except for this mountain here and a little bit over this way, but not too bad. I really found the Alaska maps to be very balanced and very enjoyable, as well as Michigan as well. So now that leads me over to Taymyr. So let's talk about Taymyr. Drownlands. I believe Drownlands slides right up in here into moderate, easy. I'm not ranking these like this. I'm not saying like Drownlands is easier than Smithville Dam. I'm just putting these all in one category and just letting you know what I think. So, but if I were to do that, I would say Drownlands is going to be harder than Smithville. So I'll slide that up there just for that. Okay, so Taymyr is a little bit different because this is where you're going to get into a little bit thicker mud. Drownlands is a big map. It's not as scout friendly, but you still can run your scouts pretty good around here, with exception to some of these thicker mud areas. But I felt this was a good map. It's very balanced too as well. There's a lot of good ways to get to each side of the map in a timely fashion, but I did notice this just takes a little bit more time. And also you got to factor in you're getting some of the best trucks in the game right off the bat. You're getting the Tega, which is literally right outside of your garage, and you can use that to your benefit. And yeah, it kind of makes the game a little bit easier in that regard. Okay, let's talk about the quarry. The quarry, I think the quarry slides right up into here as well. I think it's easier to moderate easy. There is no garage on the quarry, and to get to some of these maps, you have to complete a chain task to get through them, and that's kind of why I threw those up in there as well as the logging contracts are quite extensive. So quarry is not that hard. I think the northernmost parts in the center here are actually pretty nice. You'll get some deeper mud down here. This kind of, you can slog along, and then over here is some pretty big mud patches, and sometimes down in here as well. But overall, I didn't think this was a really hard map. I thought it was really nice, good traveling, really good route, I guess you call like off-roading, flying through these passes and stuff like that. So yeah, I thought it was really nice, really good map. It's kind of like the same shape as White Valley there, with the length and the short width. So okay, let's talk about Zimnogorsk. Okay, Zimnogorsk originally was the final map on Taymyr, and Zimnogorsk I think is by far, I'm actually going to throw this one above the rest of them if we're talking about difficulty in that regard. And we'll talk about this. Let me jump in here. Sorry, I'm switching to my controller. Although Zimnogorsk is a smaller map, there is a lot of really tough areas. Going up through here, it gets pretty thick. Going through here, this pass, just navigating east to west, north to south on this map is not really too easy. I mean, the easiest route is going around this little turn here, coming up, and then diving down and going through this. But also, you can tip your truck over pretty easily going through these routes. This route here is very muddy. Anybody who's crossed this river knows how hard it is to cross. It just takes time. Yeah, so I thought this was just a little bit harder than Smithville and the rest of them. So that's why I tossed this one up here. But still, I think Zimnogorsk is a good map for the size as well. And lastly, let's talk about Rift. Rift, I think Rift is just going to slide up in here. Probably, I think it's going to go ahead of Smithville. And Rift is kind of odd because it came out right before, they added Rift right before they came out with Phase 1. And there is no garage on here. However, you do have fuel stations that you can unlock via tasks or contracts. You find another Tatran up here, which is a huge bonus, by the way, especially if you're playing hard mode and you don't want to. You can sell one of them. It's a lot of money. But anyways, there's a ton of super mud and some tasks back here that you gotta get through. Mud gets pretty thick down in here, but the map is beautiful overall as you trend northbound, like northwest and up here in the northeast. But as you're down here in these valley areas, it gets pretty thick. But overall, I like this map. I thought it was a really good addition. Yeah, and I just finished it on my hardcore playthrough not too long ago, and I really enjoyed this. So I felt it was easy, but I didn't feel it was too hard, so that's why I kept it in the moderate areas. So okay, so now let's move on to Phase 1, and we're going to try to cover these really quickly because I'd like to get into my favorite maps here. So anyways, let's continue. Let's talk about Phase 1. And first off, we're going to cover Lake Cove. Lake Cove is part of Phase 1. There's 2 maps. They're very large. They are an introduction of ice shards, and all that breaking through the ice stuff, the frozen rocks, the frozen highways. And this is basically an Alaska on steroids. So I felt Lake Cove generally goes up here into the hard category. I probably could say that it's moderate since the last time I've played it, because I think as a player I've gotten better. But I'm basing this off my first playthrough because I don't think most people are going to play this multiple times. So I'm trying to give you a perspective of a first time playthrough here. So I think this goes up into the hard, and for reasons being that the Kola Peninsula overall, you can just see there's not a lot of roads. So you're kind of trying to navigate through these, and there's a lot of snow, super snow, rocks, etc. And you're trying to kind of pick your way through here, and there's just a lot of tasks. However, there's not a lot of hauling contracts that are more than 1 to 2 pieces of cargo outside of your normal logging. So with that being said, that's pretty good, but also you're using something called the prototype exploration unit, because some of these towers just don't uncover all these. So some of these, you can see I've used this this trailer to unlock the parts of the map, and this is just something new that came along. And I believe when this map first came out, it was kind of shock and awe for everybody because we haven't seen this. It was a whole different type of play style, etc. The map was just different. It was hard to navigate. The super snow, the ice shards breaking through, falling through that stuff, the ice Doritos that can tip your truck over randomly. It was just a huge cluster of issues here. So that's why I felt this one jumped up there. But if you're having trouble with these guys, please, again, go check out my Route Runner series. I break down great routes to get across to some of these major hubs, and just navigating the maps. So go check those out. Now, let's talk about the infamous Amundra. So I'm going to be as objective as I can. This is completely subjective, this whole review, but if I were to rank Amundra, I would say most people would say it's very hard, and that's where it's going to go. I think it is a very hard map, especially when I first got into it. Amundra just has a ton of things going on. Just trying to navigate from this part of the map to this part of the map, or just vice versa, unlocking things, doing general tasks and contracts. It is very hard to get to areas and not have issues. Even on my hardcore playthrough, I've played this multiple times. I think this is my 3rd time playing it through. I still was having, issues with high centering and stuff like that. And just overall, I had to sit down and do planning, just to plan out my contracts to be more efficient, that I wasn't just, diving into something. But you have a mix of the super snow over here, the super mud with the snow, the ice shards crossing this stuff here on this ice, over these planks over here on these concrete planks as well. This little ice crossing here. It's just a lot of things going on, a lot of topography, tipping concerns, icy rocks, etc. Everything that's kind of difficult in this game when it comes to ice maps, Amundra basically encompasses that whole view, I guess you would call it. But anyways, I thought this was a very hard map, but in later playthroughs, I didn't feel it was as hard because I've done my homework from those videos, and also the first time I played it, I recollect what I need to do and where I need to go. So let's continue here. Now we're going to talk about phase 2, the Yukon. This is the place I'm currently at. If you watch any of my Twitch playthroughs here, my streams, currently I am in the flooded foothills for, I think it's the 3rd or 4th time I've actually done this. But I think the flooded foothills goes up into the hard category still. I don't think it's as hard now, but those previous playthroughs I had, there's just a lot going on. You have a mixture of the super mud down here with the super snow, the ice, the climbing rocks, etc. Like I explained in the Amundra, but it's just a mix of elements. So it's almost like if you use mud tires, it's hard for you to climb these rocks up here. But if you use chain tires, you're going to lose a little bit of traction down here in these lower parts. So it's kind of like you have to, there's a balance of what you want to achieve. So you do have a lot of topography. Getting from one side of the map to the other is just another concern that you have to do. Getting up this mountain here there's a couple ways you can do it. Coming up here, it's all ice. You can also go up through, I believe, this way here. And then there's these switchbacks down here that refuse to do because I feel like I'm gonna fall down. But yeah, and then there's also this one here, and then over this way. But overall, I just think that there's a lot going on in these maps, especially in the Yukon. The logging contracts are not easy. You're taking logs up into these mountains to different areas and crawling up and through here with heavy logs that, they tip over relatively easy. I felt like this was definitely a harder region in my opinion. And also it's very cargo heavy. You're moving tons of cargo. Just one contract, reinvigorating the mines. It's 2 parts. You're moving, I would say, upwards of maybe 10 loads of cargo. That could be an exaggeration, but I'm currently working on that, and I've probably went up here my 7th time, and I'm still not done. So yeah, you're just moving a lot of stuff. So just be prepared for that. And next, I'm going to rank Big Salmon Peak right behind it. Big Salmon is kind of tough too, and I think I didn't rank it above just because I felt there was a little bit of a reprieve because of these highway systems that goes right through here. Once you collect everything, all your materials, which you can see I collected most things here to do crafting. Something I've done, I put them all here in this warehouse, and then I just delivered them via this cargo or this roadway. So it kind of made it a little bit easier for me. But getting back into here, into these places, you're gonna run into some heavy conditions, and then on these lower sides you're gonna run into some pretty heavy mud, and there's not really dedicated routes. You're kind of just picking your way through, especially down in here and stuff like that. But one of the hardest logging contracts, I feel, in my opinion, is in Big Salmon Peak. You're taking I think you're taking a set of logs up here to this spot, and whenever you're bringing those logs up here, I think it's there. Pretty sure this is the spot. But you're taking logs up here, and then what happens is, right here, right here is where this is sloping downward extremely, and you're trying to get over here, even with the Azov 73210, which is a very, very stable truck. I made it across here somehow because I dipped down and then came up. But also coming back with no logs, I tipped it over. So that's just an example of how, the logging contracts are just a little bit more difficult here. So, and then also the cargo is a lot more heavy as well. So that's the reason I did rank this a little bit higher. Okay, phase 2 is wrapped up. Let's talk about phase 3. One of my favorites, Wisconsin, Black Badger Lake is the first one. And I think Black Badger goes into moderate. It's a good blend, I believe, of elements, easier routes, topography, etc. Black Badger has a lot of these little back roads that are not too hard. Traveling is not too difficult except for a couple areas. Very scenic. It does have roads you can travel to areas pretty quick. It's a little bit different. Some of these areas are going to be really tough to navigate, down here in the swampy area as well, because it's all flooded. But overall, after you get all your bridges and everything unblocked, it's pretty easy to navigate through here, especially if you just come down through here and then up here. It's just a nice traveling, very good missions overall. I enjoyed this thoroughly, especially these races up here in the mountains. Very scout friendly as well. This was something that kind of took me by surprise. I feel like phase 1 and phase 2 were kind of a slap in the face for us, for scouts especially, and just difficulty overall. So this was kind of like a breath of fresh air. And that leads me to my next map that I'm going to rank here, and it's Grainwoods River. I believe Grainwoods River ranks a little bit below that, right here in the medium or moderate. So where's Grainwood? It should be right here. So I think I almost wanted to rank this in the moderate easy, but I think there are aspects of Grainwoods that are kind of difficult. So, but I think that's one. Grainwoods is one of my favorite maps. Has a lot of those little routes that really aren't like tracked out. Very amazing map. This is really one of my favorite maps, and you'll see that here when I talk about but getting to other side of the map, it doesn't take too much difficulty. Your scouts can run pretty good through here. You're not necessarily going to have to use like your Tatran and stuff like that. It just requires a lot of opening up these bridges and just getting things opened up to actually deliver cargo and get to those places. But overall, I think this was a very balanced map and very balanced region overall. I think we needed this as a SnowRunner community because, yeah, the last two phases were pretty rough. And now we talk about Phase 4. Phase 4 was the Year 1 pass conclusion, and I believe this was a kind of a response to what the SnowRunner community was saying. I believe there's some people out there saying that the game was too easy. I wasn't one of those players. I believe some of those players probably used mods, but I felt it was pretty balanced. But anyways, they came out with Phase 4. It's the largest maps in the game. There's 4 of them. The region is called Amur. So the first one is Urska River, and I believe Urska River goes up here into the hard. This one actually might slide up past the flooded foothills for me. It was kind of hard getting through a lot of these areas, and I'll kind of quickly browse through this, and then we'll conclude the Phase 4. Urska, there's just a lot of things to open up, a lot of blockages. You have a lot of these iceways that you can fall into. There is just a lot of going on. I think overall Amur is kind of, how do I say this? It feels like the Kola Peninsula on steroids. I said the Kola Peninsula felt like Alaska on steroids. Well, this is what Amur is like. Urska isn't too hard after you get these bridges built and you can actually kind of travel, because there are some relatively easy ways to get around, as I've explained in those other videos. But overall, yeah, your logging is going to be pretty hard. Have to bring those down here. There's a lot of tipping. Overall contracts, contests, I believe there's over 100 missions total, and that is a lot of stuff to cover, especially these maps being the maximum size. So you're just going to have some difficulty getting around places. So I'm going to go through that in hardcore this time, so I will have updates for you, I'm sure. So next is Cosmodrome. Cosmodrome, I believe, is a little bit harder than Urska, and you know what, actually I think Urska is a little bit harder than Cosmo. Cosmo is just slow going, and there's a reason why Cosmo is, oops, I didn't mean to do that. But we will go back here. Okay, so Cosmo, I don't believe is as hard as Urska because of this. You unlock the Zik 605R here, and that is something that you kind of need, because there's a lot of super snow, and a lot of super snow with like added super mud as another layer. A lot of these broken places, crossing these rivers, it gets pretty bad back here, especially back here when you're trying to do tasks. It's not scout friendly, but there are scout quests, which kind of, I would say, irritate me or frustrate me in a little ways, because I do not use scouts on this map a lot. The only scout I would probably use are the ones that really do good, like the Yar, the Tatran 420, maybe the Lodestar, and also the 750 are probably the ones I would use. But I mean, if I'm trying to get somewhere, I would use probably the Zik 605R or some other bigger trucks to ferry other cargo vehicles around. But this is an overall hard map. I don't think it's easy. It definitely was hard for me. I spent a good bit of time here, and yeah. But if you need to know any more about getting across those maps, check out my reviews on these. I definitely can attest that it will help you out. It did help me a lot. Spent a lot of time doing those. Next, I'm going to talk about Cherno-Kamensk. I think Cherno goes into the moderate. Honestly, I think I call Cherno-Kamensk the reprieve map. It's kind of, I think, where Saber's like, you know what? We've been hammering them for 2 maps, Urska and Cosmo. Let's tone it down and throw in Cherno. So they threw in Cherno. And Cherno is hard until you get to the garage. Opening up the garage is the hardest part of this map, because there's so many blockages that you have to you have to complete, and they require a lot of metal beams. I'm not going to get into that as well right now, but overall, I think after you unlock the garage and you get your operation set up, there's a lot of roads on this map to run. It's just all about pushing cargo out, lots of it. So and a lot of making cargo. So it's not too bad. Some of these logging contracts can be difficult, but overall, I didn't feel like this was a map that kind of stressed me out too much in a difficulty category. So yeah. And then next, we're going to talk about the hardest map in the game, in my opinion, by far. I think a majority of people would say this is probably the hardest map is Northern Aegis Installation, which gives people nightmares. I played this one last just because I wanted everything to be done, and then I moved on to this map. I don't know why there's a scout up here, but I cannot take it back. I don't know. It could just be a glitch. I think it's just an NPC scout. Anyways, it is just hard to move around here. If anybody has played this map, it is difficult. This water pump, which is a fuel pump, it's very hard to get to. It's not practical. A lot of these missions that take large trailers out of here are not practical to take. They're very hard. You have to winch nonstop. All these areas that are up here on the outskirts, very tough going up in the mountains, tipping concerns, rough conditions, ice breaking, everything that is bad about winter maps right here is smashed into this this large map. So yeah, you can test this one out. Let me know what you think, but this one's pretty bad in my opinion. Okay, so let's move on to these last two regions. So the factory grounds on the Dawn region, I believe this is a moderate map as well. These are very small maps for this region, but they are kind of like puzzles. You know, you have to do things to unlock certain other things, to unlock certain other things. It's just a chain of events that you need to complete to progress through this map, and that goes along with unlocking trucks through tasks and contracts. So I felt this was pretty good. It was kind of it was hard in some places because there are some pretty rough spots, but overall I felt this was a moderate map. You know, you could get to other sides of the map pretty easily. At this point you have some very good trucks that you can lean on, so I didn't feel like it was too bad. And then the factory grounds, we'll talk about, let me load that up, we'll talk about that as well. Factory grounds, and then Antonovsky Nature Reserve. Yeah, I think Antonovsky was a little bit harder than the factory grounds, and for reasons that you have to take logs and make wooden planks over here, and then you have this trailer you had to lug out of here, which really wasn't fun unless you have a super vehicle that can just tow this out of here like the Zix 605R. But overall, it wasn't too bad. You do get some deeper places in here. Some of the missions were pretty fun to play. So, but it is a smaller map, so it's kind of weird. The map was small, but you still kind of felt that it was taking a longer time getting to the other side of the map, and that's why I felt it stayed here at the moderate category. Okay, last but definitely not least, we're going to talk about current Phase 6, and we're approaching Phase 7, but right now Phase 6, I believe this goes up here into the moderate, probably lower moderate, and so same thing with Yellow Rock, but I think Yellow Rock is a little bit harder than the lowland, and we'll talk about these right now. The lowland, I feel, in my opinion, has good difficulty with that kind of scales with driver skill, I guess. You can get around this map pretty easily. I don't think it was too hard. This looks daunting in the center, but actually you can traverse this pretty well to get from left, east to west, and vice versa, north to south. I don't think it's too hard. I really didn't think this map was too hard. It was very, very visually pleasing. It is one of my favorite maps, which you'll find out here on the next little segment of my favorite maps. But I didn't feel like this was a super hard map. There was a lot of things to do. It is a big map. Changes in elevation, changes in terrain. But yeah, I just felt that this was very balanced. I thought Saber did a very good job of balancing the difficulty as well as the just the overall content and the beauty of the map in general. So very good job, Saber, if you're listening. And then we come to Yellow Rock. So Yellow Rock is a little bit more ice. I did feel this one was a little bit harder, especially with some of the contracts and stuff you had to do down here, up in here, as well as up toward these ice areas. You can see there's a large highway that runs through here, but don't let that fool you because there's a lot of that broken ice that you kind of have to maneuver around. And you can see that some of these routes are not really written out for you in stone, so you have to kind of find those yourself. But I have found some really good ways to travel northbound very quickly, without a lot of difficulty as well. I did feel this was a very balanced map. I didn't feel it was too hard. You know, there are some spots that are going to slow you down. I did feel the one logging contract where I took long logs up to here in the center was actually kind of tough. I did it on stream with the boar, and it did quite well, but it does require a little bit of patience. You do have to do some crafting back here, so that's some other things you have to worry about. And also these gateways, you have to unlock these to get back and forth. So yeah, that is my current outlook here on hard to easy of these maps. And this is just a total subjective, hey, this is what I think. Your list might look totally different. Go and try out Tier Maker for yourself. And let me know what you guys think. I'm sure I'm going to see some disagreements here, and that's totally okay because, you know, we all find things more difficult or less difficult than others. But yeah, I'm interested to hear what you guys think. So now we're going to talk about my favorite maps on this game. So let's get into this. Okay, so now let's talk about my favorite maps in this game currently. And this is not going to cover Phase 7 or Phase 8 because we just don't know what those maps are going to be like, but I can give you a little bit of my projection of how I think they're going to be. Realistically, I'm hoping that they are good with the Tennessee map. With the whole racing thing, I'm not sure why that's coming to be. I feel like they're trying to do some testing for their new racing game. I don't know. I'm hoping there's still some hauling and some more slow gameplay, which I do like, which is part of the reason I started playing this game. But anyways, that's just my 2 cents. So what I feel like Phase 7 is going to be like, I feel like it's going to be pretty scout friendly, a little bit higher paced, with hills and traveling and stuff like that. So I think it's going to be pretty exciting. I think it's going to be some very good views as well. Tennessee is a beautiful state, so I'm looking forward to that. Phase 8, I'm kind of expecting Phase 8 to be another 4 maps, very hard, a lot of cargo, and just overall difficult. I'm kind of expecting another Amur, if you really want my point of view on that one. But we'll see. I hope it's just a balanced map that can be used by all of the trucks in the game. But anyways, let's dive in here. Let's talk about my favorite maps in the game, favorite regions, etc. So we're going to start low, and I'm just going to build my way up. So, all right, so we talked about the Northern Aegis installation, and I'm going to say that's probably one of my least favorite maps in the game. And right accompanying that is probably going to be, I'm going to say Amandra. So I think Northern Aegis is my least favorite. Amandra is probably my last favorite map in the game, just because it's sometimes it's just not fun grudging through that stuff. So yeah, I just didn't feel it was too fun, but we will continue this. So Factory Grounds, I feel like it was a C. I feel like it was all right. And the same thing with Antonovsky. I did have fun. Just because I'm ranking these a C doesn't mean I necessarily dislike them. I definitely disliked anything that's D or below. I disliked. I think these were good balance. I liked how it was a puzzle. It was just very different than what they did before. But there's just so many maps that I just enjoyed a lot more. So that's why I just kept this here in the C, and I felt it was a good place. Lake Cove, I don't feel it was as hard as these maps here. I feel like you can travel across with some of those shortcuts I talked about in my one video on my Route Runner series. So Lake Cove was kind of enjoyable for me because I could just move around more freely. There wasn't a ton of cargo. It more or less was focused on exploring, which was really really cool that they brought out. So I kind of enjoyed that, but it still stays down here to sea. Cosmodrome. Cosmo is going to go into the sea as well. I thought it was okay. There was a lot of exploring, a lot of things to do, but overall, I think it was a C. Not too. I didn't really enjoy it too much. And the same goes with Erska River. Erska was hard. I did still enjoy these Amur maps, but yeah, sometimes the difficulty and just the overall slow nature of things and lack of progress, and when you sit down for 2 hours and you only can get like a task done, um, it kind of wears on you a little bit. So yeah, if you can figure out how to fast track and get yourself through these, I believe I did a pretty good job of it. But at first, it was kind of slow going, so that's why I kind of kept these down here because I just wanted to have a little bit more progress, um, to kind of give yourself some satisfaction or satisfaction. Came to speak today. Okay, let's talk about B. So for B, I definitely like Big Salmon Peak, and I definitely liked Chernokamensky. Big Salmon with that mix. It was a very beautiful map. I feel like once you get all your cargo together, you can just knock out those big contracts. Even some of those logging contracts that are pretty hard, they still felt fun. Yeah, I did have a good time playing this map. The same thing with the Flooded Foothills. I'm having a ball playing it. Those large contracts are getting kind of redundant, but still, it's nice to see. It's nice to see like this map again and just using my skill and knowledge that I've picked up from just playing this multiple times and seeing how much better I can do it. So I'm definitely having a good time with it. Okay, so the next category, there is going to be a lot of maps going in here. So first off, I think Black River is amazing. It's that nostalgic feeling. I love it. You're going to see a lot of these early maps up here, as you can see, because I just feel like they just bring back that nostalgia. That first time you played them, it was hard. You're exploring things. It's just a new gameplay, I guess you would say. The new game feeling, just is the reason these are up here, and I think they're very balanced as well. And they don't take as long, so that's another thing. You sit down for 2 hours and you want to actually accomplish something, and I believe these newer or the older maps, you can do that. So Smithville Dam goes up in here, Island Lake goes up in here, and so is Drummond Island as well. Same thing with Alaska, Northport, Mountain River, White Valley, and Pedro. They're gonna go up into my A. I had a very fun time with these. I was even using highway trucks to deliver cargo. There is a good balance, like I talked about. I've said this over and over again. Maps that are balanced well with highways, with regular roads, easier routes, harder routes, scout friendly, where you can kind of use all your arsenal, or there's a place for all your arsenal to be used, or your whole garage to be used. I'm a fan of those maps, so that's why I threw these in here. And then next, absolutely, Quarry, Drownlands, Rift, and Zimnogorsk are all going up into the A. And I believe these are going to stay here, and I'm not going to move these probably for the rest of my my SnowRunner experience, because I love these three maps, these three regions. They're just so fun. They're challenging, but yet they're satisfying. And yeah, I played these in order. I've played them out of order. But I think playing them in order, you appreciate the older maps as you download DLCs, just because yeah, these older ones, I don't know, it's just something that is just amazing about them. Anyways, let's continue. Let's talk about my S. These are my favorite maps in the game, and as you already can know, yeah, it's gonna be Greenwoods River, Black Badger Lake, Yellow Rock, and the Lowlands. So, and I put these up here because the crazy thing is they remind me of these A category maps, or these regions here. It reminds me of these, but just with newer things, newer features, better visuals. You can use just different. It's like the game molded and kept good aspects of all these maps and just put them into these. And I felt that was a really awesome thing because I think these maps were needed, because some of these maps like the Flooded Foothills, Amur, Kola, they just kind of suck the fun out of you a little bit because of their difficulty. And I feel like these are just so well balanced. They're beautiful maps. Yeah, I love them. I think, and the lowland is definitely my favorite. I've actually started playing the game in reverse, where I've started in the lowland, and after going in grabbing some upgrades and stuff like that for some trucks just to make it a little bit easier, I started a hardcore mode where I just started playing the lowland and going in reverse because I just love these maps so much. But anyways, that is my favorite maps in the game so far. I'm expecting Tennessee to probably fall in the B category, maybe the A, depending on how well things go, and so on and so forth. So let me know what your favorite maps are, guys, and hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope it wasn't too long, but it was very long-winded, so I apologize for that. But I just felt so much passion for this game and for these maps and for this whole experience. So have a wonderful day, and until next time, God bless and stay upright.